Mike Sylvester. I'm a certified public accountant, part of the overthinking class that council member Goldner referred to. You did, but I'm going to show you a couple places where I think possibly the people at this table are underthinking the tax abatement process.
Excellent.
As I said, I'm a certified public accountant. We run a public accounting firm on the north side of Fort Wayne called Small Business Services CPA Group. We have 2 partners. We partner with 130 small businesses. 120 of those are in Allen County. 110 are in Fort Wayne. I heard very little about them in this whole conversation, and that's kind of what I want to talk about. And Councilmember Goldner's heard me talk about this in several public forums because it's near and dear to me because this is what I do for a living. I talk to 7 small business owners today. You know, I don't know that the people here do that on a daily basis, and I think the input of those who do could be important. I think one of the most important statistics is that 7 in 10 jobs in Fort Wayne will be created by small businesses. A cursory look through the tax abatement rolls, which I have made, shows you that between probably 95 and 98% of the dollar value of tax abatements in Fort Wayne are granted to large businesses, leaving 2 to 5% likely for small business. Does it seem logical that a group that creates 70% of the jobs receives 2 to 5% of the tax abatement dollars? I would argue that that's, on the face of it, relatively absurd. I think that needs to be looked at seriously. If you look at our clients on the whole, they employ about 700 people locally. If I were to pool all of my clients together and come to City Council with a tax abatement, you guys would approve it right now. There wouldn't even be a thought because they clearly meet all of the criteria. But when looked at separately, they don't qualify for a tax abatement. They don't qualify because of the costs of getting the tax abatement and the cost of complying with the system. I've talked to several people about this. The rough number I've been told to make a tax abatement worthwhile to the business owner is the investment has to be between $100,000 and $150,000. That's just the number I've been told. You know, that's why you won't see somebody with a $25,000 tax payment come to the table because they'll pay more to their accountants than they'll get back in their pocket, and that doesn't make sense. Even though I'm an accountant, I don't want to see that either. I don't think it's logical. I think that you should never abate restaurants, retail, establishments that don't meet the city's own criteria, or housing. We have a tremendous amount of housing in this city, and there's for sale signs all over town. I don't think that we need more. You look at restaurants in Fort Wayne, look what's happened recently. The Outback is closed. Uno's is closed. Don Pablo's has closed. Restaurants are the most failed business in the United States. When you grant a tax abatement to a restaurant, you're helping them beat their competitors. You know, I have 3 clients that are restaurants. They don't qualify for tax abatements. You may give a tax abatement to their competitors who puts them out of business. When they get put out of business, how do those jobs go into this whole job retention formula? All you're doing is shifting jobs around the city from one restaurant to another. The only way that you can argue that a restaurant is economic development is if it draws new people to Fort Wayne. And I would challenge this council to find any economic studies that show granting a tax abatement to a Subway or a McDonald's can bring jobs to a city. I do not think you can find one. And if you do, send it to me, because I want to read it. I do not think that you can find it. I also question some of the things that I saw that we're talking about, you know, job retention and creating new jobs. Most businesses that come to City Council for a tax abatement have already made the decision to make the investment. That is a demonstrated fact. The tax abatement is just gravy. It's just something they get. They've already decided. If Edie's comes for a tax abatement, they've already decided to do it. You know, in many cases, tax abatements have been granted by this City Council last year to businesses that are already operating. They're already operating. It's not part of their decision process. I think that City Council needs to make sure the rules are uniformly done. And I know that those that favor tax abatements will say that a tax abatement is just one tool out of many, and it's part of a package. I would argue that it's a small tool of questionable worth. As Councilman Harper pointed out, if you really look at this, and many of us here have, there are 2 competing theories of thought. One is that tax abatements aren't very helpful, and one is that they are. Next time you might want to have someone at the table who is on the other side. because there are many economists that say they don't work, and they can prove to you they don't work. Very interesting reading. You can't prove which side's right because there's a strong number of people on both sides. I'm glad that you had this meeting, and I'm glad I could participate. Next time, I would like to see somebody sitting at the table that opposes them and that represents that viewpoint.
You just may get your wish. Who'd like to be next, please?